Hello, and welcome to this panel with Roblox and a couple of other guests who I'll introduce properly in a moment about Roblox and the next generation of brand advertising. Now, you may, like me, have just got used to switching up all the talk about millennials to talking about Gen Z, but today we're talking about Gen Alpha, the next one coming up behind. Here's a stat for you, and it's one that I had to double check. 132 million people log into 132 million?
Yes.
Log into Roblox every day, which I checked on the way here. That is somewhere between the entire population of Mexico and Russia. You know that?
I did not know that. Good to know.
There's a lot of people in Mexico and in Russia. A third of those are under 13 years of age, and while they're on there, they're building lifelong relationships with each other and their passion points, and also with brands, which is what we're here to talk about. That amount of eyeballs, of course, hasn't gone unnoticed, but some brands still remain unsure about how to get involved with this audience and how to do it right. So we have Roblox themselves here, along with their agency partners, SuperAwesome and WPP, to talk about charting a course through all of that. So let me introduce our panel here today. We have Lisa Willett, who is Senior Director of Global Strategic Partnerships at Roblox. Hello.
Hello, thank you for having me today.
How are you doing?
Great, thank you.
It's lovely to have you. We have Nick Walters, who's President and CSO. I assume that's Chief Strategy Officer?
Chief Strategy Officer.
One of those
Great.
funny little three-letter words that can mean a few different things at SuperAwesome. Hello, Nick.
Hello, great to be here.
And we have Juliana Coley, who is Vice President of Global Strategic Partnerships at WPP. Hello.
Hi, thanks for having us.
How are we all doing?
We're good.
Looking forward to talking about Gen Alpha?
No, Gen Alpha now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let's start with Roblox, shall we? Which I know has evolved its ad platform significantly in recent years. For anyone watching who hasn't activated with you yet, what are you offering advertisers?
Yeah, so if you've followed Roblox's journey over the past few years, brands used to just engage with us by making their own experience, making their own game on the platform. But over the last 3 or so years, we've evolved that into kind of two different offerings. One is our scaled ad products. We have a fantastic rewarded video product that is, and the rewards are endemic to the game. We have billboard video, we have homepage units, we have sponsored tiles that all drive into games and experiences. The second part of it is we have integrations into games. So you can do that temporarily through a program we now have called Brand Link, where we match up safe creators and games and developers with brands to deliver outcomes for brands globally.
And so these partnerships go pretty deep. Do the two of you want to tell me about your partnership first?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we at SuperAwesome, we really exist to help power brand engagement with the next generation of users on the internet. That's people under the age of 18. And so we're incredibly proud to have partnered with Roblox to support the rollout of ad products on Roblox to all ages. So Roblox have moved to a place now where all users will be able to see some form of ad unit, and really importantly, creators creating content and experiences for all ages will see the benefits of that advertising. So one of the things we really believe at SuperAwesome is it's super important to make sure that if you're doing the right thing as a creator, if you're making a game that's age appropriate, that's brand safe, that's a really rich and cool experience for Gen Alpha to play with, that you can get paid for doing so, because that means that you're properly incentivized to do the right thing. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking some of SuperAwesome's tech to classify each of the Roblox experiences where you can see advertising contextually, so that as a brand, you're going to be able to find experiences which are appropriate for your brand, that you're comfortable with your brand showing up in, but they're also contextually relevant. So if you're a sports brand, we're going to help you find the sports experiences. If you're a fashion brand, we're going to help you find the right fashion experiences for the type of fashion and apparel that you have, and then we're going to help you deliver advertising inventory across those experiences.
And we chose to partner with SuperAwesome for really two simple reasons. One, their rich history of delivering to under 18 population in a very, very compliant, safe, and respectful way. And then the second is the technology, as Nick talked about, that is going to help us, we believe, with the contextual targeting, for example, help improve outcomes for those advertisers on the platform. Because at Roblox, we do absolutely no personalization for ads and for those users under the age of 18. And at Roblox, safety is the #1 priority for us, for creators, for brands, and for our users.
Why don't we, while we're here, while we're talking about partnerships, there's a partnership going this way too between WPP and Roblox.
Yeah, absolutely, and with SuperAwesome too. So,
with
so there you go. It's a happy family.
Everybody
here.
loves everybody.
We actually partnered with SuperAwesome, I think 5 or so years ago, or 6 years ago, Nick. We have a lot of clients that are looking to reach under 18 audiences. Faced with an increasingly fragmented regulatory landscape, and couldn't overstate the importance of partnering with SuperAwesome, who understand this better than anyone. So we started our partnership there, and then fortunately started working with Roblox 2 or so years ago. It feels like a lifetime. The promise of the platform of delivering kind of rich, immersive experiences for this generation of Gen Z, Gen Alpha that really value that sense of community is unmatched in our minds, and we kind of saw that opportunity early on, and we're grateful to have formed a partnership really kind of focused on translating and educating our clients, translating the value to our clients, and educating them about the possibilities on the platform. And that's since evolved over the past year. 3 months ago, we expanded our partnership to a commercial partnership, working with all of our US clients and advertisers. NBCU is one I'll talk about later on, who have a kind of scaled and significant presence now. So kind of we also have seen the maturity of the platform evolve, increasing to new ad formats and new ways of engaging with these audiences.
And Juliana, you've done a lot of work in this space, right? So you're our designated history lecturer for this.
Oh, good,
course.
glad, yes.
Obviously, we mentioned that those hundreds of millions of people getting involved in platforms like this and Roblox itself every day. That hasn't happened overnight.
No.
How have we got to where we are now?
Yeah, I think, well, looking at Gen Alpha in particularly, and previously Gen Z, I think the advertising landscape was slightly more fragmented, and that was really down to a data scarcity issue. I think we've seen an evolution in terms of kind of measurement solutions and audience insight solutions. Nick referenced SuperAwesome's work in this space. So we've seen kind of that scale. I think at the same time, full credit to the likes of SuperAwesome and their partnership with Roblox, kind of real effort behind the safety and compliance and regulatory framework. That was difficult for brands to understand. And I think whenever faced with risk, there is a kind of a sense that it's too hard. So I think that to kind of get our clients there, we've really kind of brought them along on that journey and kind of made that easier for them, invested in kind of really kind of secure and safety solutions across the platforms. And I think the education gap's closed. I think clients are really understanding the value of the platform relative to others. I think some of the kind of upper funnel platforms, social platforms for engaging these audiences, while valuable, don't offer that kind of rich, immersive engagement, hour-long engagement with some of these experiences that we just don't see elsewhere. So I think more and more clients, both endemic and non-endemic, are really catching up to that.
And I think it's worth saying, at the broadest level, when we think about Gen Alpha, one of the things we really believe is that this is a generation that are no longer by default consumers, by default they are creators. And time and again, across different platforms, we see the paradigm changing from passive consumption to being actively involved in creation. And so you see kids making their own games, you see them leaning into UGC, you see them forming their own communities. Now, you want that to happen in age-appropriate ways, obviously, but as that happens, as a brand, if you're thinking about the future paradigms of engagement with your audience, Roblox, I think, is a platform you have to be on.
Yeah, we actually call them the participation generation, which is also probably the creation generation, because we believe they don't want to passively look at things. They want to be participatory in all that they do. And I think Roblox is uniquely positioned for success in this space because we are a platform where we want everyone to create, and we're rolling out even more AI tools to make that creation very simple and very possible.
Nick, we've touched upon risk and safety, things that we'll get back to in a minute. One of the other things that's top of mind when we talk about this environment is data availability, which obviously has a particular complexion when we're talking about younger audiences. How do you approach that when you're building the sort of thing that you're building with Roblox?
I think one of the things which is really important is that data scarcity and all the things that come from us very properly not tracking individual kids around the internet sometimes lead brands to conclude that, well, there's no data. There can be no intelligence, there can be no differentiation in the way we show up, and we need to talk about the audience as if they are kind of homogenous. But kids and teens are not homogenous. There is a real difference between kids who are into gaming, kids who are into sport, kids who are into crafting, kids who are into creating, kids who are into fashion. Those overlap, but they're also distinct differences. And what we love about Roblox is that all of those different kinds of teens can find a place on Roblox. It's not just a conventional gaming platform of people running around with guns shooting each other. There is an almost infinite range of experiences for every type of those demographics. And so what we really want to be able to do is, if you are a sports brand, we want to be able to help you find the right game for you to go in and talk to sporty kids. If you are an entertainment brand, you're launching a new IP-driven show like Minions, we want to help you find the right games where people who are going to be into that kind of thing are. And so that's how we get there, is actually a very similar approach to what we do with our, on a creative platform like YouTube, where we're using a combination of technology. It used to be ML, now it's MI, to pass through the metadata, understand, give us a head start on looking across hundreds of thousands of experiences and understanding what might be in there, and then using a layer of human moderation and human classification to make sure that we're getting that right, and that we've got really kind of detailed insight that's enabled us to kind of classify those experiences.
Speaking of data, what data do you have on how Roblox is delivering for audiences?
Yeah, I think we've really seen, in addition to kind of data availability in terms of insights for matching our advertisers with the right experiences, an evolution of different measurement solutions as well. When we first launched our partnership with SuperAwesome, we launched a measurement council as part of that. So working hand in hand with the product teams at Roblox to really define new measurement standards for 3D immersive experiences. So moving from just impressions to, engagement with virtual items, also across experiences as well. So we've really kind of started to see, quite significant results there. And I think where that bears out is we've had some of our clients that have kind of moved away from viewing the platform as a means of one-off kind of activation to longer-term strategic, always-on approaches. So they're starting to kind of quickly realize the value of showing up and engaging this community consistently, leveraging different cultural moments that surfaced on the platform, and BCU is kind of probably the leading client in that space from our end.
Lisa, you must have a dizzying, 132 million people every day, must have a dizzying amount of data at your...
Well, you'd actually be surprised because we are such an all-ages platform, we actually don't collect as much data by design, but we do have a lot of measures of the efficiency and the effectiveness of our advertising and brands coming to the platform. So I really would think of this in three ways. One, we have our on-platform data. That 132 million users stays for about 2.5 hours a day, which is absolutely insane, but it's their form of entertainment. We say it's the new Saturday morning cartoon. This is how they engage. And then when we do brand experiences specifically, we find that brand experiences can go anywhere from 2 minutes to 45 minutes of engagement. So engagement is really, really crucial for us. The second piece of it is offline data. We have now crossed the threshold of having 1 trillion, not billion, 1 trillion views on YouTube of Roblox content.
That's nearly as many views as the drum has on YouTube.
Yes.
Almost.
And 1 in 5 videos on TikTok about gaming are Roblox. And so we are seeing Gen Alpha and Gen Z both engage off and on platform. And then the third bucket is that, as Juliana mentioned, we've started to really go more deeply into third-party partnerships because we also want others, we don't want to grade our own homework and validate it. So actually this week at Cannes here, we've launched a study with Ipsos called Immersive is Effective. And one of the stats that stood out to me is that 52% of the 13 to 34-year-olds, because we don't survey under 13, of course.
I'm just about in that category.
Okay, good.
You're talking about me.
Good. Say that the 52% say that they're more likely to pay attention to Roblox ads than other platforms, which was 13 points higher than streaming and 11 points higher than social. So it really shows the efficacy of how immersive advertising brings engagement and how that engagement can start to translate into results for brands.
I'm still stuck on the 132 million. I keep thinking in my head what other media channels would do for 132 million.
Yeah. I think it's also just to that point as well, in terms of like proving out results and driving results. There are very few brands left on the planet now who would, I think, not buy into the idea that YouTube is an important platform. Mm-hmm. That YouTube is, they would not buy into the idea that YouTube is a really important place and really effective. And so one of the questions we get asked a lot is like, well, how do I know what's coming next on YouTube? How do I show up authentically 100%. On YouTube? And the key thing to remember is these platforms are all connected. These are not separate ecosystems. What happens on Roblox, we constantly see echoes across the rest of the social video ecosystem. And so kind of if you want to know what's next across the social video ecosystem, you need to look at and understand what's happening in Roblox. And I think just the fact that that dynamic is so clear tells you an awful lot about what you need to know about efficacy on the platform.
100%. And I think, look, I think our clients are getting there. I think that narrative is something that we're keen to tell more of. Like, really, Roblox shapes culture. Our clients come to us and say, how do we be part of culture? How do we react to culture? How do we create content at the speed of culture? And I think it's, it's not necessarily entirely appreciated the impact Roblox has across different platforms in terms of kind of shaping culture and creating content.
Yes. If you think about with our impact on culture, we say we both create and participate in culture. So when we're saying we participate in culture, we have partnerships with all of the major sports leagues. We have music and concerts on the platform where we've had Bruno Mars, Lady Gaga, Cat's Eye. So we're doing a lot around the culture that already exists, and then we're also creating content. Our game Steal a Brain Rot, which has done amazing, and Grow a Garden broke a record, helping us drive to 45 million concurrent players last year. So a garden game and a game called Steal a Brain Rot actually were the culture setters for Gen A and Gen Z in this past year.
A garden game.
A garden game. Yes.
So all the brands should be making garden games. Is that the answer?
Well, but it's how they built the garden game and how and it was a participation game again, and it was a creation game. You created your own garden and you participated with others. So it goes back to the themes of this resonated not because it was vegetables, but it's because of the mechanics of including what this generation wants to do.
And I think there is actually a serious point there, which is the answer to that question is probably no. Right? Like brands, by and large, should not be trying to be the creator themselves, which is why we have loads of great ways to do integrations, find creators who are really effective, and also loads of really straightforward, low-effort ways to do what you already do, which is introduce media into the right place on the platform and support that creation.
And that's what we see across our clients as well. I think, there is an apprehension initially when we say, like, it's an important place to show up because some brands are intimidated by the expectation that you have to create your own experience. Right. And, as Nick said, that's something that, they probably shouldn't be doing in the first instance. They really need to understand the platform, understand the audience, take time to get it right. And, that can look like, traditional media formats or virtual items. There's lots of different ways for our clients to show up. And for non-endemic brands, we had Indeed on the platform recently. They're increasingly showing up in kind of different ways.
Indeed.
Yes. Indeed.
That's an interesting one.
It is an interesting one.
Well, speaking of, let's talk about some brands who have done it right, who've done a good job, who've walked the walk of the dynamics that we're talking about. Do you, other than Indeed, Juliana, do you have any other examples?
Yeah, I'd say NBCU. I've spoken about them already, but I'd say they're our most sophisticated client and quite foundational to our partnership with Roblox. They have a roster of different tentpole moments across their calendar year, from kind of sporting events to entertainment and IP releases. And they've done a really great job of bringing those to life through kind of integrations and experiences that they create. So Jurassic Park last year, ahead of the release, they kind of brought the trailer to life in a sense, creating kind of challenges on the platform, virtual items like a T-Rex tail, and that was hugely successful. Like sitting back for a brand, to think that someone's actually playing your trailer is actually quite a novel concept when we think about it.
Maybe a bit scary as well.
Yeah, maybe a bit scary, but if you bring it to life in the right way, in an authentic way that adds value to this community, I think it's really exciting. Minions, we worked with SuperAwesome recently, to again kind of bring the trailer to life, creating kind of a movie film set that people could interact with. I don't know, Nick, if you wanted to add anything on the Minions piece.
Yeah, I think it is the ability to realize not just participation, but realize that in 3 dimensions to bring creations to life. And you look at something like Minions, it's such a strong visual identity. Yeah. It has, it's such a strong and immersive world. And it's a thing that kids and young people really want to be a part of. There is a limit to how immersed you can be watching a video on your phone. There is a real sense of presence when you move over into 3-dimensional gaming that is a really rich thing for brands to be able to tap into, I think. And we see that in the results of the campaign.
My favorite example that always stuns people, similar to Indeed, is a campaign that we did with H&R Block, which H&R Block is a U.S. tax service. They have renewed and done both integrations and traditional media 2 years in a row on the platform because they found great success in trying to reach that younger person to file their U.S. taxes. And their integration, one of their integrations, we had 6 million virtual tax forms filed to start getting them in the habit and the engagement of that. So if a U.S. tax brand can manage, or Indeed, brands have a place with our audience.
I suppose one thing kids like to do is to play adult, right? So that
Absolutely. You see Ryanair Simulator. But also I think it's really worth sort of saying here as well, some of those brands you talked about are brands that traditionally might have sponsored a sporting event. They might have been they might have been on a billboard at a soccer game or whatever. Like, one of the things we absolutely see with Gen Alpha is, though they may well be interested in sports, they're not sitting down to watch 2 hours of sports. That's not the way. They're not making those kind of commitments to conventional long-form programming in the way they're used to. They are making those kind of commitments to Roblox. And so it feels a little counterintuitive for an Intuit or a H&R Block. But Gen Alpha are now 2 years away from entering the workforce. They're 2 years away from having to do their own taxes. And they're not showing up in the conventional places for attention. And so actually, it's a very smart strategy.
And I think it's not an either or in those kind of strategies. I think we were increasingly seeing, brands of ours that might have a sports partnership or sponsorship extend the value of that sponsorship by creating ancillary experiences in Roblox, extending the value to a different audience in a different way.
So what's the lesson there, Lisa? We've spoken about participation and getting involved, entering the environment, the ecosystem. One of the things that people say is integrating into rather than advertising in the space. Which of these ways of describing the phenomena we're talking about do you favor?
I don't think it's which one, it's when you do each one. And so I think of what we've done in the last 2 to 3 years in our scaled advertising and media products, that we believe that we are an essential Gen Z and now Gen Alpha platform. When you look at over 13-year-olds, 49% of our audience monthly doesn't go on Instagram. So it's not to say that Instagram is a bad platform. It's a fantastic platform. But if you're not considering Roblox for your scaled advertising strategy and you're trying to reach Gen A or Gen Z, you are missing out on a very important segment globally. So that's when it comes to the advertising. Integrations are very valuable to go on that deeper level. And of course, if a brand still wants to create their own experiences or their own games, we don't discourage that. In fact, we're building AI tools to launch mini games that can be done very, very quickly to kind of, again, scale out this immersive is effective advertising.
I think the thing I would also say is that one of the things that you'll see from this SuperAwesome data partnership supporting the platform is we will help you break down your audience reach within demographics as well. So it's not just about reaching girls 13 to 15. Maybe you want to reach sports fans within that segment. What kind of reach extension am I achieving by activating on YouTube and Roblox, for example? You will, in almost all cases, see pretty strong double-digit reach extension by activating on Roblox, in many cases 30, 40, 50%. But we will help you break that down and understand that by segment. And so I think there's real value in bringing kind of a generation of kind of common planning tools across that creator ecosystem to really help brands understand kind of what they're getting and where.
Nick, to stay with you for a second, contextual classification.
Yes.
And our audience is going to be clamoring for us to talk about it. What does it mean?
So contextual classification is actually a very, very, very simple concept, almost embarrassingly simple. Very simple is like, what is this content about? Because what we know to that point that not all 13-year-olds, not all 14-year-olds, not all 9-year-olds, they're different. They have different interests, and those interests show up in the types of games they play. So very basically, if you're a sports fan, you are more likely to play a sports game. But guess what? If you're a sports fan, you are also, from an emotional standpoint and value standpoint, you're probably a bit more into competition. You're probably a bit more into kind of the thrill of winning. And so that's going to show up in a particular type of game. And so we can go through and we can contextually classify those games, really looking at what are the gameplay loops, what's in the games, what's going to be relevant to the type of audience you're trying to reach. That way, without needing to track a user, without needing to collect a cookie or anything like that, we're helping you show up in a very targeted way to be relevant to your audience. Second thing we're doing is we're helping a brand make decisions about where they're comfortable showing up. So, for example, some brands are going to be totally comfortable with weapons in a game where they have advertising. Some brands are going to want no weapons at all. Also completely fine. Lots of games that cover that. Some brands might say, well, you know what? I'm fine with it if it's a fantastical weapon. I'm there for it if it's Star Wars and there's laser blasters, but I don't want realistic real-world weapons. Okay, we'll give you the information to make that decision as well, so that you can make sure you're not just reaching the right audience, but you're reaching the right audience in games where you feel really happy with your brand showing up. And that's essentially contextual classification.
To close off one other thread that we've touched on, but we haven't driven at headlong, safety and compliance. Obviously, these are two things that are paramount when you're doing any work in this space. Lisa, tell me how you're building that into the work that we've discussed.
So just in general at Roblox, over the last 6 months, we've made incredible strides and progress on safety. It's been the #1 focus for Roblox. And just to give a few examples of what we've done is that we now have users on the platform facially age estimate. So that means that it's an option. You don't have to do this. But if you'd like to chat on the platform, we estimate your age. And then you're only allowed to chat with your cohort. That helps keep users safe. Then with that data, we've now launched 3 different versions, essentially, of Roblox. Roblox Kids for under 12, Roblox Select, which is under 18, and then regular Roblox. So now we have better classification of what is appropriate content for different ages. We've increased parental controls as well. And so these are just some of the very few things that we've done from a safety angle. And so when you take that on top of what SuperAwesome's technology is, we feel that we're an incredibly safe place for brands.
Okay, let's do some future looking. What's next for WPP and the brands you work with in this space? What are you excited by? What are you looking at?
I'm personally very excited. Lisa touched on some of the creator tools and creative solutions and kind of production solutions of connecting experiences end to end for our teams. So how do we take kind of the rich insights that SuperAwesome have around kind of creators, and the same with Roblox, around how culture's being shaped and defined on the platform, translate that into kind of quick creator tools for playable experiences that our teams can leverage, and have them into activation from a media lens kind of really quickly. We're constantly briefed by our clients to create at the speed of culture. And I think to be able to start to see that in reality is really exciting for us. So I hope to see more there soon.
Look, from our side, first of all, a quick note, by the way, I think we've got this far on the panel without mentioning the words AI, which is probably something of a record.
You ruined it.
The only panel.
Or thereabout. But I am going to now say it. You're seeing AI tooling accelerate creation in so many different ways. And I know Roblox has got a bunch of stuff coming down the track around this. So if you've seen the creator economy accelerate already, I think you're going to see a further acceleration as a bunch of those tools roll out. And so what we at SuperAwesome are really excited about is how do we map the very specific Gen Alpha and lower Gen Z creator economy, because it looks different. It looks Roblox driven, significantly YouTube driven. Obviously there's a bunch of TikTok, lots of things for 13 plus happening over on Discord that are super interesting. And these ecosystems are highly fragmented, but deeply, deeply connected, and they move incredibly quickly. And you need a new generation of tools and a new generation of intelligence to really help brands map that, understand it, and participate it in the right way, and sort of building that single view of what's happening across the Gen Alpha relevant creator economy. That feels like an incredibly exciting thing for us to be working on.
I think what I'm most excited about, and this is the truth of the matter, is the partnerships that we've developed with both of these teams. We know that Roblox's audience, yes, good, but we know that Roblox's audience is valuable. I came to Roblox because I have teenagers, and over the last few years, I've seen the power of this for this community. And then you layer in what SuperAwesome can do in terms of making this more effective for brands, and then you have a partner in WPP who is really leading the way in bringing brands to this, is really how to reach the next generation. When I was a kid, it was Saturday morning cartoons, there was some Nickelodeon. This Roblox is the future, and I'm really excited that these partnerships can help us bring that closer.
Speaking of these partnerships, the fruits of your labor, the most recent partnership between the two of you, at least, are now live. I dare say people can go and look at it for themselves. Anyone who wants to follow you down that path, how would you recommend they get involved in this space?
Self-interestedly, come talk to us. We have built, and I think we've talked about on this panel, we have built a bunch of different solutions to make it really easy to get started on the platform. You cannot get much more straightforward than, hey, we'll take interactive video units, we'll take the existing video units you already have and run those across the platform. We've made that really easy. We've made it really targeted. It's super scalable. We are at SuperAwesome working really closely with Roblox as their sole partner for the U13 side of that. So please come talk to us and we'll be very happy to help.
Lisa?
I mean, yes, I think we're open for business today, and I think if anything, we want people to just reach out and learn a little bit more, because there is some fear and there is some barriers. But when you, as these folks have mentioned, that when you get started, it's really quite easy.
Okay, last thing, a quick fire thing. Someone comes along to you and says, we're looking to reach Gen Alpha on Roblox. You get one sentence to recommend a course of action to them. What would it be?
I think dive in, but dive in intentionally. It's going to be longer than a sentence, so apologies. But it's not just about creating an experience. There are many different ways of engaging that audience, and it's not something to fear. It's exciting, but to understand the audience and take the time to do it right in a way that creates value for this very unique community.
I think the one thing I would say is what we always believe at SuperAwesome is you want to be led by Gen Alpha themselves. Gen Alpha have made their choice as to what the breakthrough platform for the next generation is. It will be Roblox in the same way that the last decade was YouTube. And so now is a great time to go experiment and to dive in. And we're very happy to help you do that at superawesome.com.
One recommendation that I would give is similar to Juliana, which is dive in. And I'm going to go longer than a sentence too. But if you think back 10, 15, 20 years ago, you were like, what's a news feed? What's social media? Before that, you're like, what's streaming? There has been evolutions of media. And I believe that immersive gaming is the next evolution. So come and learn.
Okay, there we are. Thanks very much to my panel for joining us, to Roblox, to SuperAwesome, and to WPP. And catch up with us for more on thedrum.com. Goodbye.